My travel to Switzerland. My name is Imran, and this is the story of my unforgettable trip to Switzerland, a country that had always been on my bucket list. It all started one crisp winter morning when I received an email confirming my visa approval. The moment I saw the email, my heart leapt with excitement. Switzerland, the land of snow-capped mountains, crystal-clear lakes, and charming towns, was finally within my reach. The preparation. The days leading up to my departure were a mix of excitement and chaos. I spent hours researching the best places to visit, what to pack for the cold weather, and, of course, the food I had to try. My suitcase was filled with warm clothes, sturdy boots, and a small Urdu English guidebook, just in case I needed to communicate with locals. The flight. The journey began with a long flight from Karachi to Zurich, with a layover in Dubai. As the plane ascended, I looked out of the window and felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The hours seemed to stretch, but I kept myself entertained by imagining all the beautiful places I would explore. After nearly 12 hours, the plane began its descent into Zurich. As I looked out, I caught my first glimpse of the Alps. They looked like they were straight out of a painting, their snow-covered peaks glistening under the bright sun. Arrival in Zurich. The Zurich airport was nothing short of impressive. Everything was so organized, and the efficiency of the Swiss people was evident. I quickly collected my luggage, passed through immigration, and stepped outside into the crisp, cold air. The first thing I did was buy a Swiss travel pass, which would allow me unlimited travel on trains, buses, and boats. My plan was to explore Zurich for a day and then move on to other cities. Exploring Zurich. Zurich was vibrant yet peaceful. I started with a stroll along Bahnhofstrasse, one of the most famous shopping streets in Europe. While the luxury stores were out of my budget, the atmosphere was captivating. The smell of freshly baked pretzels from street vendors filled the air, and I couldn't resist buying one. Later, I visited the Old Town, or Altstadt, which felt like stepping back in time. Narrow cobblestone streets, medieval buildings, and quaint cafes were everywhere. I stopped at Grossmünster, a Romanesque-style Protestant church with stunning views of the city from its tower. The highlight of Zurich was Lake Zurich. I took a short boat ride and felt completely at peace as I gazed at the serene waters surrounded by the Alps. Lucerne and Mount Pilatus. The next day, I took a train to Lucerne, a picturesque town that seemed like it belonged in a fairy tale. The wooden chapel bridge, with its iconic tower, was even more beautiful in person than in photos. I spent hours wandering around, taking pictures, and chatting with friendly locals. From Lucerne, I embarked on an adventure to Mount Pilatus. The journey up the mountain was thrilling. I took the steepest cogwheel railway in the world, which climbed at an almost vertical angle. When I reached the top, the view left me speechless. The entire Swiss countryside stretched out before me, with snow-capped peaks as far as the eye could see. Interlaken and Jungfraujoch. After Lucerne, I headed to Interlaken, the adventure capital of Switzerland. Nestled between Lake Thun and Lake Brienz, the town offered some of the most stunning landscapes I had ever seen. My main goal in Interlaken was to visit Jungfraujoch, also known as the top of Europe. The train ride to Jungfraujoch was an experience in itself. Passing through tunnels carved into the mountains and stepping out at Europe's highest railway station was surreal. At the summit, I walked on a glacier, visited the Ice Palace, and stood in awe of the panoramic views of the Aletsch Glacier. Geneva and Lake Geneva. Next on my itinerary was Geneva, a city that perfectly blends natural beauty with international importance. I visited the United Nations headquarters and the Jet d'Eau, a massive fountain in Lake Geneva that shoots water high into the air. I also spent some time in Montreux, a town on the shores of Lake Geneva. It was peaceful and charming, with vineyards stretching up the hillsides. I visited the Château de Chillon, a medieval castle that sits on the edge of the lake, and learned about its fascinating history. Food and culture. One of the best parts of my trip was the food. I tried Swiss chocolate, which was unlike anything I had ever tasted. The cheese fondue was another highlight. Dipping pieces of bread into a pot of melted cheese was both fun and delicious. The people I met were warm and welcoming, even though English wasn't their first language. Many spoke German, French, or Italian, depending on the region. It was fascinating to see how diverse the culture was despite the country's small size. Farewell to Switzerland. After a week of exploring, it was time to head back home. My last day was spent in Zurich, reflecting on the incredible experiences I had. Switzerland had exceeded all my expectations with its beauty, hospitality, and charm. As the plane took off, I looked out at the Alps one last time, feeling grateful for the memories I had made. Switzerland wasn't just a destination, it was a dream come true, and I knew I would cherish this trip for the rest of my life.